right, call the June 12th, 2024 public information meeting to order at 7 p.m. I'm going to start with roll call. Councilor Spoulos.
Present.
Councilor Bailey.
Here.
Councilor Hurst.
Present.
And Councilor Goya.
Present.
Next, I'll just ask staff, starting from my left, to introduce themselves for.
Justine Brotherson, interim municipal clerk.
Courtney Whitefox, I'm the interim CAO.
Mehul Safiwala, junior planner of the township.
Jesse Osford, so planner with MPG Planning Solutions.
Sarah Heater, interim deputy clerk.
Excellent, thank you. The disclosure of community interests. No, seeing none. All right. It's gonna take a minute to read through, but bear with me. Purpose of this public meeting is to inform and provide the public with the opportunity to ask questions or to express views with respect to the development proposal. Councilors are here to observe and listen to your comments. However, they will not make any decisions this evening. Township requests that you please notify by email planning@wilsonch.ca or by phone at 519-763-1226, extension 4. If you wish to be on record and would like to be notified of future hearings and decisions regarding this application. Please note, the meeting is video and audio recorded, and all electronic meetings are uploaded to the municipality's YouTube page. By attending this meeting in person or by registering to participate in the meeting by electronic means, you are consenting to have your likeness and comments recorded and posted on YouTube. Please note, in accordance with amendments to the Planning Act through Bill 185, following parties may appeal this application to the Ontario Land Tribunal for a hearing. A, the applicant, a specific person, a public body, the registered owner of the property to which the bylaw would apply, and the minister. Please note that if a specific person or public body does not make an oral submission at a public meeting or written submission to the Township of Wilsonch before the decision is made, the specified person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the Township of Wilsonch, the Ontario Land Tribunal. In addition, if a specified person or public body does not make an oral submission at a public meeting or make written comments to the Township of Wilsonch before the decision is made, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal unless, in the opinion of the board, there are reasonable grounds to do so. You may wish to talk to township staff regarding further information on the appeal process. The format of this public meeting is as follows. The applicant or agent will present the purpose and details of the application and any further relevant information. Following this, the public can obtain clarification, ask questions, and express their views on the proposal. Members of the public are permitted 10 minutes each to ask questions and express their views. This time limit is imposed to provide each member of the public an opportunity to speak. Council will then have an opportunity to ask any clarification questions. The applicant and the township's planning consultants will attempt to answer questions or respond to concerns this evening. If this is not possible, the applicant and or staff will follow up and obtain this information. Responses will be provided when this matter is brought forward and evaluated by council at a later date. This public meeting involves an application by Usman Aziz, zoning bylaw application D14 AZI Aziz Usman, concession Gore Front Part Lot 9, Part 3, Part 2, so that's a mouthful, known as 6706 Gore Road, Township of Wilsonch. The purpose and effect of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is to amend the Township of Wilsonch new comprehensive zoning bylaw 23-2018 to permit the establishment of a dog kennel and dog breeding operation. The application proposes relief from the general provisions to allow the dog kennel and breeding operation to be located 97 meters away from an existing residential dwelling and repurpose existing building on the subject lands to accommodate the use of a dog kennel and dog breeding operation as outlined in the application. Now I'll ask the owner or applicant to make the presentation.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, staff, and the public. My name is Nick Scare with Innovative Planning Solutions, here to speak on behalf of the owners in attendance for the lands municipally known as 6706 Gore Road. The purpose of this presentation is to provide an overview of the proposed development and zoning bylaw amendment and receive feedback from council and the public in attendance tonight. The intent of this application is to facilitate the rezoning of a portion of the agricultural lands to agricultural with exemptions in order to permit and facilitate the development of a dog breeding use which falls within a kennel definition as per the current zoning bylaw. Next slide, please. The subject land shown in red outline contains a total lot area of 7.8 hectares with approximately 307 meters along Gore Road and 408 meters along an existing rail line. The property contains open field agricultural areas which were used for agricultural purposes and previously used horse paddocks, which with an associated horse track. Within this area are vegetated areas and the property is bordered by trees. Within the existing structures currently used for dog breeding kennel operations is a large barn structure, 2 medium-sized sheds used for dog breeding housing areas, along with 2 smaller shed structures used for storage. There is an associated fenced dog run areas, parking, and 2 access driveways from Gore Road. There is 1 dwelling which the owner operator resides in and contains an office area related to the dog breeding operation. Fencing and vegetative buffering areas separate the dog breeding kennel operation from abutting properties. Next slide, please. This slide provides a high-level overview of surrounding land uses from the subject property. As you can see from this image, there's a lot of farm and mature vegetative areas surrounding the subject property shown in red outline. Further to the east are agricultural with some residential uses. South contains the majority of agricultural uses and a farmhouse. West contains agricultural and residential uses, and all agricultural and vegetative areas are to remain on the subject lands to ensure protection of natural features and maintain the countryside feel. Next slide, please. This slide provides a high-level overview of the county official plan with respect to the subject property. The county official plan designates these lands as secondary agricultural, shown in brown, and core green lands, shown in green. The secondary agricultural designation allows for kennel uses subject to municipal zoning bylaw regulations to establish criteria for such uses. This means that no official plan amendment is required to establish dog breeding kennel operations. Rather, a zoning bylaw amendment is necessary to ensure the permissions and site-specific provisions. Next slide, please. Building off the policy framework of the official plan, the township's zoning bylaw is an implementation tool containing specific regulations such as uses, setbacks, structures, parking requirements, height, and landscaped areas. This slide shows the existing zoning of the subject lands. The property is currently agricultural and natural environment within natural environment overlay protection area. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment intends to rezone a portion of these agricultural lands to agricultural exemptions in order to facilitate the existing development of a dog breeding kennel use. Next slide, please. This slide provides a site plan concept of the entire property and site-specific area as part of the rezoning proposal. The portion of this property is intended to be rezoned in the central to the property and contains all existing structures and outdoor dog run areas. The dash box area outlines the proposed site-specific zoning for the dog breeding kennel use, which is approximately 108 hectares in size, with dimensions of 108 meters deep by 100 meters wide. All areas outside of the proposed site-specific zone will remain agricultural. The environmental protection areas will remain to be protected from development impacts. This image shows setbacks from dog breeding kennel structures and the outdoor dog run areas from the closest residential structure located at 6700 Gore Road. The purpose of this measurement is required from distance separation from the kennel uses and residential uses. This is to ensure it is appropriate distance from the kennel operation. The separation distance is identified as a site-specific zoning exemption and as part of the rezoning proposal. A list of site-specific exemptions will be provided further in this presentation. Next slide, please. This slide provides greater detail to the area intended to be rezoned. The image on the left is a site plan drawing that provides details of the building location, setbacks, outdoor dog runs, vegetation, fencing, access driveways, fire routes, and location of utilities. The image on the right is a rendering with reduced details to provide a clear illustration of the buildings located on the property and the overall area to be rezoned, encompassing these structures within the 108 hectare area. For additional context, operational function of the business is solely a dog breeding operation, and no dogs or animals will be boarded on this property. The maximum number of adult dogs housed on the site for dog breeding purposes is 25 and will remain on the site permanently in line with the kennel bylaw regulations. There are 44 dog pen areas within the existing structures and 4 outdoor dog runs. Permanent adult dogs will be housed in individual dog pen areas to ensure spacious, safe accommodations above industry standards. The remaining dog areas are utilized for infant dogs and for the ability to relocate adult dogs to clean, spacious dog pen areas while other pens are clean. This ensures adult dog accommodations are continuously maintained for optimum treatment of animals. The facility is not open to the public, which reduces or eliminates any traffic concerns. The only option for members of the public to access the property is with respect to purchasing of an infant young dog through scheduled appointments. This will occur between the hours of 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. Similarly, dog breeding kennel operations will function between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. And the goal of the operation is to adhere to applicable legislation, including the Town of Busselton zoning bylaw and kennel bylaw. The operator will provide employment of 5 full-time employees with 3 part-time staff members, in addition to the owner-operator residing on the property within the existing dwelling. This operation actively participates in partnerships with local college institutions to assist with student co-op programs. Next slide, please. Related to sound and any potential noise disturbances are mitigated through recommendations within the sound report. The inclusion of an existing typeboard fence and vegetation along the west boundary to assist with visual buffering from adjoining residential properties allows for softening of existing structures and outdoor dog run areas. A professional noise consultant was retained to provide sound level evaluations of the use to residential properties. Through the noise study, mitigation measures were identified in line with operational criteria of the dog breeding kennel use. The resulting professional noise study concluded that the dog breeding kennel use is within acceptable sound levels of abutting existing residential properties. It is important to note that the sound study has been reviewed by township staff and subject to the township peer reviewer consultant on multiple submissions to conclude sound levels are within acceptable levels. The closest portion of the dog breeding kennel use to abutting residential properties located at 6700 Gore Road is slightly over 97 meters, while all other portions of the use are located over 100 meters or more from the residential use. From our understanding, no noise complaints has been filed with the municipality related to this use prior to submission of the zoning bylaw amendment. Next slide, please. The area noted with cross-hatching is the zoning bylaw provision A-SP number sign illustrated the area to be rezoned in relation to the entire parcel. The remaining portion of the parcel will continue to be zoned agricultural and natural environment areas. Next slide, please. This slide lists the proposed site-specific zoning exemptions to establish the dog breeding kennel use as a portion of on the subject property. This list includes permissions to allow for kennel use, which includes dog breeding, restrictions on the total size of existing structures, outdoor dog run areas, restrictions in setbacks from residential uses at 6700 Gore Road to the dog breeding kennel use, and that all other regulations within section 4.13 of the township zoning bylaw related to kennel uses be applicable. To note, the additional zoning regulations are to ensure dog breeding kennel operations remain within the existing layout, size, and area. It has also helped identify separation distances from residential uses. The zoning bylaw requires a 125-meter setback to existing residential dwellings from a kennel use. The proposal reduces the setback to 97 meters. Through submission of a noise study and the establishment of a typeboard fence with vegetative screening from the residential use, along with operational timeframes aligning with bylaw regulations, the reduction in setback can be justified. All other provisions of the zoning bylaw have been satisfied with respect to parking and landscaping, building sizes, heights, as well as all other provisions of section 4.3 of the for kennel uses. Next slide, please. In conclusion, the purpose of the rezoning amendment is to rezone a portion of the subject lands from agricultural to agricultural site specific to reflect the legalization of an existing dog breeding kennel operation on the subject land. The proposal is consistent and aligns with provincial planning interests and policies, supports preservation and protection of agricultural through the creation of an area of the subject property specific to dog breeding kennel use, protection and maintenance, maintaining of natural environment areas, provides opportunities by diversifying the economic base within the countryside landscape, and adheres to sound levels to residential uses. It is our objective, subject to the zoning bylaw amendment process, to adhere to municipal licensing requirements for kennel operation, as well as detailed requirements as part of site plan control process with the township. We have reviewed all comments submitted for this public meeting, and we are willing to work with applicable agencies and staff to address any comments as needed. This concludes the presentation. Should you have any questions that arise, council, staff, or the public, please address them to myself, or we also do have the noise consultant here to answer any of those specific detailed questions. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. I'll now ask Jesse, are you doing a presentation?
The applicant has covered everything that I would be stating. I know that there were some questions that have come forward with respect to noise for the property to the south. If that's all right, I could respond at the conclusion.
Sure. All right. Is there anybody in the gallery here that has any questions or need clarification? Do we have any attendees?
Anyone in the virtual gallery on Zoom? If you have any questions or comments or would like to make a statement, if you can just use the raise your hand function, it's just located at the bottom of your screen.
So I'm a little confused. Sorry, do you have something you want to present to us, or you just want to be available for questions from council?
I'd like to be available for questions. I know that there has been a question and I could respond at that appropriate time.
Is that not now?
Sure, it can be now. If this relates to a question that came up when council, when this was in front of council, I believe when we were ready to deem it complete at the council meeting, and it was in respect to the vacant lot that's in the area and just how noise is going to be assessed with that lot. Should it be developed into a residential unit later on? And so our planner Jesse has looked into that for us.
Yes, so through the chair. So the noise study that was prepared in support of the application stated should a residential dwelling or other sensitive, so lands across the street to the south are in the township of North Dumfries. The noise study that was prepared with respect to the application provided recommendation noting that noise across the street would exceed appropriate limits for residential use. Keeping in mind that that property does not have a dwelling right now. So what they had suggested was should a residential dwelling or other noise sensitive land use be proposed constructed within the highlighted area of the vacant lot to the south as shown in figure 5, which is in the noise study of the report. The noise study must be reviewed and revised to ensure appropriate mitigation measures are incorporated into the kennel's operations to comply with the noise guidelines and limits at the new receptor location. The question was related in terms of whether that can in fact be implemented. We don't have an answer at this point in terms of whether that can actually be implemented through the site plan agreement. The reason is the site plan agreement deals with the works, it deals with like physical elements of the site. So updating a noise study, I don't believe can be at a future date far down the road, whether residential dwelling is constructed. I don't believe that that can be implemented through the site plan agreement. I would like to point out the township does have a noise bylaw. Barking is not covered in the noise bylaw. Licensing, I also looked at, licensing your licensing bylaw with respect to a kennel operation. Your licensing bylaw does not, allow you to require a noise study for an existing kennel operation unless there is an expansion. So, I don't know if through the plan fulfilled. I understand we are looking into that a little bit further, and that will be detailed in the staff report.
Okay, thank you, Jesse. All right, council's opportunity, any questions or any clarification from?
No, I'm just like to understand the nature of the complaints of any that we received.
Certainly. So, staff did look into this, and just to maybe give a bit of the timeline. From staff's records, there was a pre-consultation that was submitted in December of 2021 for this use, which was sort of the first step in, legalizing it through a Planning Act application. There was a noise complaint that was submitted in October 2022 as the applicant was sort of working through the process. This did result in a notice letting them know that this had taken place and recognizing that we needed to work through the planning application process here. That was the complaint in relation to noise. There was another complaint that was different, not noise related, and it did prompt, as I understand, there was a visit from PAWS, which is the ministry's organization, but there was no concerns that were raised with that. And likewise, the township has had their Humane Society that we work with, Cambridge Humane Society, go out and inspect the property, as well as I understand a veterinarian, which is a part of our process. And again, there was no concerns raised. There has been a conditional kennel permit that's been issued based on those types of inspections.
So with respect to the complaint that was received in 2022, was that before or after the fence was put up?
You don't have that information.
Before? Yes. Okay, thank you. So the questions are.
Any other members of council also have questions? Clarification? Please go on, sir. Sam.
Just to follow up to Jesse, just so I'm clear on it, I know you didn't have a full answer for the vacant lot, like if the vacant lot was to be built upon, is there a trigger, is there a mechanism that gets triggered to then say, okay, now we need to look at a new noise study, or how would that
See, that's,
be triggered?
that was a question that's come forward. The noise consultant put forward a recommendation that the noise study be updated should a residential dwelling be constructed. The problem is as you have pointed out, I don't know how that can actually be implemented and how the township can require it. So I don't believe that we can require that through the conditions of approval. However, I understand that the township is looking into the matter a little bit further. There are other opportunities, if we wanted to include physical mitigation at the forefront, there is the opportunity to apply a holding provision at a future date as well. That is another option.
Onto the vacant lot?
No,
No, onto,
the
yeah,
subject lands, and that holding provision would
I see.
ensure appropriate mitigation measures are put in place
Okay.
to address the vacant lot to the south.
And then just so I'm clear on the timeline as well, so there was a pre-consultation in 2021 to legalize the kennel, but how long has the kennel been in existence?
It was,
Go ahead.
the kennel was like in the process, I was not doing the breeding, but when I bought the property in 2021, I had the dogs, some dogs, not the whole 25. I don't know what kind of complaint was that, as you mentioned, it was a noise complaint, in 2022.
How long has the township been dealing with this file? I think it's historic and it's further back than 21.
So, no, it was, as I understand it, it was brought forward through a pre-consultation in 2021. And then subsequent to that, we did receive those two complaints that were noted. One being noise and one being more about welfare. And both of those things were looked at. And again, the side of it on the welfare, We've had, like I've noted, there's been 3 separate sort of, groups in, and we have signed off on this, kennel permit. They've met the requirements of our kennel permit.
But what initiated that first pre-con? Was there a bylaw complaint about a kennel? So I feel that the original owners possibly had an operation going on, and there might have been some complaint driven, which then brought the original owners in to get zoning to legalize their use, then these individuals purchased it. Do you have any inclination of how long the previous owners had dogs at the
They
site?
had dogs, a lot of the setup was already there. And probably, I was not aware of the noise complaint. I was under the impression that somebody felt that there is dogs there, and I should have a proper, because I was walking my dogs outside every day on the leashes, so probably I was under the impression that somebody complained that I have more dogs than legally I should be. But there was no noise complaint as far as I understand.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, to our understanding, I don't think so. We have any noise complaint. It was more about the welfare, which you said that we have complied on three or different times. The reason was, so we went to pre-consultancy in 2021, and it got delayed because we were working with a different firm at that time. So because of the delay, and then there was some welfare people who came in, and at that time, because of the delay with that relationship, then the notices were issued to come and apply for the permit, to come and apply for the adjustment. It was those 2 notices, to my knowledge, they are not noise related complaint. They are just, you started an application, you're not finishing it out on time. We are giving you this time, come and finish it off.
What the counselor was trying to find out is how long dogs have been on the property, because if, this is my interpretation of your question, is because if, regardless of when you're legalizing the use, if dogs were there for 10 years and there was 1 complaint versus dogs came in 21 and then you got the complaint, that's where the counselor's trying to get, I'm trying to get that information.
Sorry, now I understand. Yes, the previous owner had the dogs there before. When I bought the property, he had the dogs set up there before. But I bought this property in 2021, and so probably they had some complaints before that.
So it's difficult to determine exactly when, but these individuals started the legal process in 21.
When they purchased. Okay. Okay. And then I just had one more question. I didn't see any report from Source Water Protection in there. Is there a need for that with excrement storage on the property?
So we did get comments from Source Water. There was no concerns.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. That's all.
Yeah, just maybe a couple follow-ups to the questions posed. So just maybe the one question, and maybe it's hard to decipher from the briefing note, but the distance from the kennel to the vacant lot, did we have a distance on that one?
I don't recall if I'll have.
Please.
Through your worship, I believe, I'm just looking at some of these slides. There's a residential property not on the vacant lot, but beside it. I think that's to the east.
Right.
If we go back to the presentation, I think it's slide 6. If at all possible for a visual. That distance from the closest point of the kennel operation to that residential home, which is similar distance to the vacant lot, is about 133 meters. So you can see that there's a number of very small numbers here at the bottom where it says Gore Road.
Yep.
And those are distance specs from our consultant that shows the distance from any point of that structure. I know it's a little blurry to there. So you can see the bottom one's 146, and then the top one is about 133, and then 137, 145.
So presumably that would be a somewhat similar, slightly less distance to the vacant lot directly to the south.
Relatively, yes, but we can easily produce that number should it be warranted.
I think just to kind of follow up on the previous comments, that would be something I think just for full clarity in the process. I think that would be a good thing to make note of, and then maybe a potential building distance separation from the actual road. So just thinking like the maximum distance one would potentially have a property, and that's probably where my number goes, is that if it's that 125, then great. If it's less than that, then that becomes a concern type of thing. Does that make sense?
Through your worship, just for clarification purposes, so like hypothetically, if we took that lot that is in the other municipality and showed like a hypothetical residential building meeting their setbacks and what that distance would be to kennel operation, is that?
That's exactly.
Okay, perfect, we can do that.
So thank you for that. The next question I had, and maybe this is hard to answer, but I'll attempt to ask the question for the building owners. Any future development plans within that property, or is the existing infrastructure there for that suit the needs of the business currently and into the future? I'm just curious if you can share that.
Nothing about it, I don't need it.
We'd love to invite you guys to come and visit the canal. It's beautiful. Like the infrastructure we've already built. It's really good.
I think that's helpful just to understand kind of what your future plans are. That what I'm hearing is the existing infrastructures there for your.
It should be more than enough for the dogs and allowed to keep. I have 3 extra kennels which I used to, they'll just select them here and there to just watch them.
Okay, thanks. That's helpful. Yeah, my third question, and this may be more for staff. If you can share, and I get that the noise complaint potentially was pre your ownership of the property, but I guess since the fence and potential vegetation have been put in, has there been any communication with the homeowner to the west of the property, this 97 feet, that satisfies their concerns?
So Ms. Whitefox can add some clarification to a noise complaint that we received and the timing around it.
Yep.
So it was in October of 2022 that we did receive a noise complaint. And so there was likely a visit with our bylaw enforcement officer around that time. So that was the time frame of it, and I understand that was before the fence went in. And then in respect to the, I'm not sure if Jesse or any of our other staff know if we had any feedback during the public consultation from that particular neighbor. And is it the one just on the screen here to the west that you're referring to, Councilor Hurst?
Yeah, the 10665.
Yeah, that's municipally 6700 Core Road.
Sorry, through the chair, so the comments, that we received don't all have municipal addresses. But we do have, one of the comments, the only comment that I have that has a municipal address is, sorry, not the municipal address, but has, a location speaks about, 2 houses east. And that was sent on June 1st, 2024. And there wasn't the other one, there was another one that had a noise complaint, but I don't see a municipal address in that comment.
I guess really what I was after is did the fact that a fence was erected and vegetation put in satisfy something that was fully satisfied those concerns. And maybe that's not based on the information.
That's correct. However, I do want to point out, there was a noise study done. And as the applicant had indicated, you would rely on that typical, that advice, which is that noise would meet appropriate standards for the lands to the east and to the west.
That's good. I'm good, thanks.
I just have one question. Should, I know there's a noise study and it's based on usually hypothetical things, but should there be more noise than anticipated where there's several complaints about noise? Is there a protocol in place for how to handle that?
To your worship, to just council's question, yes, we have mitigation measures that we can employ should those noise evaluations go higher than what's anticipated through this study. And we'd be more than happy to ensure that we meet those noise study standards. We want to ensure that this operation, it meets those regulations and contributes to the community. I also want to just apologize, just to circle back about any potential mitigation measures with respect to the vacant property, that we're more than happy to work through those detailed designs or mitigation measures through site plan control as a very detailed process with municipal staff and the consultant. Happy to offer up any solutions that we can rectify. But given that it is a hypothetical situation on an existing farm operated lands with existing mature vegetation, and the likelihood of whenever that house may happen is very much up in the air.
Okay, so my understanding of this vacant lot is that we're not certain yet if we have the authority to impose some controls to mitigate the noise to the vacant lot, and you're gonna report back for this comes to council for final approval. We're gonna get more information on what is available to us and what is not. Is that essentially what we're gonna be hearing?
That is correct, and I just want to clarify, the concern is, do we have to employ all the physical mitigation measures through the site plan process, or can we employ those mitigation measures sometime in the future should a new dwelling ever be constructed? So we can definitely employ mitigation measures, physical mitigation measures through the site plan process. But the question comes down to, can you have a condition that the applicant would have to update the noise study to employ mitigation measures should a new dwelling ever be constructed? So dealing with that situation.
So maybe I should know this, but what's the distance? So the distance of the lot to the south as a noise receptor, are they using the property line immediately adjacent to the road allowance? Are they using the center of the property? Where are they measuring to say that the noise may be at unacceptable levels to that lot to the south?
Correct me if I'm wrong. Do you wanna?
Sure. So what we did, sorry, I'm Kenny Mallon with SLR Consulting. I assisted with preparation of the environmental noise study. We modeled contours from each of the dog runs representing the parking at two different receptor heights, 4.5 meters representing a second story window if it were a two-story dwelling, or 1.5 meters, which represents an outdoor point of reception or a single story window. So the figure that you see in the report is an amalgamation of all those contours that you kind of see previously superimposed over the northeast portion of that lot.
Figure 6.
So where on the lot, like we must have chose at 4.5 meters, was it at the road or was it the back of the lot? Was it at the middle of the lot?
So those are ISO contours, so that's the sound level at a height of 4.5 meters. So we didn't assess. What we're showing is what the sound level would be at various locations within the lot where it exceeds the limit of 45 dBA.
And, okay, where I was trying to go with this is that, I'm struggling with, putting restrictions on a possible business for a hypothetical situation. What I was trying to figure out is if, as a municipality, if North Dumfries ever receives a building application for that property, that our comments could be that we don't want a building within X amount of meters of the frontage of the property line to try to keep that separation from this business, because what I'm also feel like I'm hearing from Jesse is that once this is established, there might not be as much authority to make them mitigate the noise to a house coming after the established business. Is that what I heard you say?
That's correct. May I add to one other point that you mentioned? So I look at the zoning for the for the property in North Dumfries. They are allowed a dwelling as of right. So they wouldn't go through a public planning process if they were to construct a dwelling. That's the issue.
Sure. Through your worship.
We understand that that is a potential concern in the future, and we're more than happy to accommodate through mitigation measures should that ever happen, even though there's no municipal triggers. But there are other avenues that we can explore that put restrictive covenants on the subject property, such as the section 118, which is registered on title. That should that actually become a noise issue, that mitigation measures will be addressed at that time. So those are similar type site plan control, which is an agreement registered on title and can have conditions of approval. And should the municipality and their consultant not feel that that is an adequate way of regulating something hypothetical in the future, there are other legal means that we can register on title.
All right, well, I look forward to what staff report back, and I'm sure they'll take those comments into consideration and so I'll just go with the gallery and Josh.
To your worship, so I just want to run through some timelines. The previous owner had this operation from 2011, and it is one of the reasons why the new owner decided to buy the property. And as soon as the new ownership came into place, and then the first complaint came in, there was no complaint from 2011 to 2021. As soon as the ownership changed, the first complaint came in. And then the mitigation, it was addressed with the fencing and vegetation and all those kind of stuff. And because it was not legalized, and so the new owner felt the importance of running the kind of with the legalization and proper things in place. And so this is going on for the last 3 years, and it is really affecting the business. And I really request the council and the mayor to have some consideration. It is going to create a lot of economic development, and as our panel mentioned, about 5 full-time jobs, and also helping with the local college and the universities here for the all that. So I just want to mention about the timeline, and also request you to consider. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I was pretty certain they had some sort of operation there historically. Because I actually thought I knew the owners, and when you guys walked in, I'm like, that's not the people I know. So anyway, they knew something had changed. Anyways, back to the script. Is there anything further from council or?
Just a question, timeline, Courtney, when would this rezoning application go forward to council?
So if you, Mr. Chair, I don't have the timeline in front of me, but we would work through, we think it's July 10th. It would be the 90-day process period. So we are sort of reaching the end of that. So we're going to try to maintain those timelines.
Great, thank you.
All right, so last chance, is there any further information which the applicant wishes to provide? I declare this public meeting closed. Council will take no action on the proposal tonight. Staff will be reporting at a later date with a recommendation for council's consideration. If you wish to receive further notification of this proposal, please email or call planning@plissontch.ca or by phone at 519-763-1226, extension 4, or contact township staff during regular business hours. Only those persons who leave their names will be provided further notification. If you wish to speak to the proposal and is brought before council in the future, you must register as a delegation with the municipal clerk prior to the meeting. All right, thank you, everyone.